I want to get going with just teaching you first how to tension and tune that tension. And the idea of linking the whole body together, and this will serve a lot of purpose. This is cognitive. It's more intention. It's more creative. And I might use this along the way to alleviate little aches and pains, but also just get stronger all in one shot. So I want you to be able to feel at first how you feel. Turn your head and neck. Look up, look down. I don't know, maybe neck's tight. Maybe it just feels less strong. Let's put the shoulders up overhead, put them down, put them back behind. These seem robotic. As you go along, you can assess anything you want. Maybe you want to move your shoulder like this because you're going to go surf after work or something like this, right? Or you want to get stronger for your surf trip. Maybe you've just been working at a station and your shoulders feel tight. Test the thoracic like you did. Test a little forward bend. These are, I don't care really what you assess now. It's just that you will assess it directly after. Do a little back bend. Oftentimes, when we are at workstations for long periods of time, we might have to crack our necks, twist our backs, or crack our backs and different things like this. Let's try a deep squat. Notice how the hips feel, how the ankles feel. Good. Let's stand it on up.
This is now easier compared to when we first started together 2 years ago.
So there's short-term benefits that happen really quick to the nervous system, and then there's also long-term benefits when we reinforce the patterns, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you're experiencing too. Yes, could you just do what we're going to do now, and even in 15, 20 minutes and experience a short-term benefit? That's what I'm attempting to prove to you in both pain and performance, the same kind of outputs, right? So let's also test rate of perceived exertion on something like a push-up. So go ahead and drop down and just do like 2 or 3 push-ups. It's not how you do it or whether you do or don't. It's just feeling what's called rate of perceived exertion. How hard is it? How easy is it? What's working the most? What's working the least? Does your body feel really connected in this strength task? Or does it feel like a few tension points are working? That's it. Good. Notice that feeling, not how many you did or a certain specific form, right? And last but not least, now we could stop there. Okay, so when we're talking about isometrics, they can serve a lot of purpose. They can help our body feel a bit more connected. Think like Bruce Lee stuff, right? Lots of power driven through the whole system at any given time. And I want you to be able to feel that for yourself. So we're just going to stand hip width apart, feet facing forward, arms at the sides. Eyes are going to go up a little higher than you'd be used to, just so that we're not looking down, kind of like normal workstation postures. Eyes are up. You're going to try to lift your head just a bit by pulling the chin back. You're going to make 2 fists, one on each side. You're also going to start to grip the ground with your feet. So although the toes are spread, imagine grabbing the ground. And if the room was going to get flipped upside down, and whether you fell or not, depending on how hard you could grab that ground with the feet, I want you to imagine that. And then we're going to start from the ground up by that grip, and you're going to start to create tension and as much of it as you can up the chain. So I don't know exactly how you're going to do that. You're just going to try. And this is also a bit of neuroplasticity. We're changing your patterns already. We're letting you find tension through your whole body. Squeeze the feet into the ground. Try squeezing the feet towards center. Feel your inner thighs. Try clenching and gripping the glutes. Try squeezing the fists, right? And boom, start scanning, almost like in an SDR, like a non-sleep deep rest protocol, where your consciousness, your intention goes from the ground in the feet and all the way up the chain. Can you feel the hamstrings and the inner thighs and the hips and the glutes? Now the lat muscles, now the arms, the biceps, the triceps, clench those fists. Now clench your jaw. Clench your face, create tension through the whole body. Drop again and stand up, and then build that tension. I want you to imagine 100% tension through the whole body. You can even squint your eyes as you clench your jaw. Build it, build it, build it, build it, build it. And the same way you built it up, you're going to release it. This is your starting point of tensegrity, tension and integrity through the whole body, like an architectural principle, right? This is also letting you find 100% max tension through the whole body and 0% tension and relaxation in between. Now, we're going to do that 2 more times really powerfully. And you'll see along the way, this is going to help us all along the way. It's a root function principle. Not only is your brain getting all this information by you tensioning, especially in places that don't always have it, their brain takes all that information, it feels safe with that information, so it gives you a little more to play with. Oftentimes we see better mobility. Oftentimes we see better strength. So start with the feet, start to build that tension. This is also an idea called pendiculation. It's a pain management idea. Good. Find the feet, dig into the ground, find the hamstrings, find the inner thighs, build that tension, keep building it up and up and up and up. Squeeze the stomach in tight. Tension those lats like you're holding 2 heavy weights on one each side. Tension the face, the jaw. Try to tension the ears. Squint the eyes, scrunch the face, and then now take a breath. And as you exhale, boom, let it out. Good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you would tell me to blow out and get my abs in before, that was really helpful in terms of like pulling it all together.
We're going to add that too. I'm going to embellish out a little bit. So we're going to do that one more time. This is also a very powerful pain management technique. So imagine in your brain, imagine you go through your day. Maybe it's in the gym and work. Maybe it's in the gym and your activity and then work, or whatever, right? But certain things get tension without you actually knowing it. So the fascial chains tighten, maybe your neck tightens while you're working from all kinds of stressors, not just holding your neck in a specific area. Now you're finding all of those tensions, but connecting them all in one and then releasing them. And your brain gets this reset mechanism, right? Let's try it again. And I'm going to add a little bit of the breathing. And then we're going to move into some more powerful breathing. And we're going to retest in between and see how you feel. Know that this is pain and performance. They're both outputs. So this could decrease someone's pain as well as get them ready for performance, right? So and that's including a work performance, a creative performance, not just whether I can lift a weight or not. Let's go again. Also, this is hard. You should feel as you derive up a lot of tension, your body's working. Your heart rate goes up when you're deriving tension, even though we're not jumping around. So feet, hips, hamstrings, inner thighs, outer thighs, grabbing the ground, squeezing the fists, deriving up as much tension as you can. Get a little wider through the shoulders. With all of that tension, I want you to actually breathe in through your nose forcefully and see if you can breathe against that tension like a balloon at the rib cage. And as you exhale, tension the torso a little bit more. Squeeze your stomach in tight a little harder and do that one more time. Breathe in forcefully. Then as you exhale, pull tight and then relax. Good. All right. So quickly, just through that, let's retest. Turn your head and neck. Isometrics can be really powerful in these outputs. Look up, look down, and we're going to match that second assessment now to the first. Put your arms up overhead and notice how that may feel. Put your arms behind you. Same assessments that we did before. Again, as you go along, you can choose them. You can choose your own. They just have to be similar or the same from first.
My favorite, my favorite are the thoracics. And I totally get more motion. I totally can, like we've done this for 2 years, but totally feel like the machinery in my body now. It's not just like one lump of body. It's like oh, the first round I didn't feel like my hips going. Now I feel like the hips going. So it's really cool. It's like different each time.
Well, and this is also, let's correlate that to a cognitive, creative boost as well, because there's different areas in the brain lighting up and better information going to the processor that's sitting in the top of the skull there. Try your forward bend, try your back bend, try your deep squat.
Forward bend,
Yeah.
hands over.
And what's really cool is you could actually go back to this video and watch yourself on how those degrees and angles and feelings might have changed in these assessments. So that's really cool too. And the other most important part is this is a root function biological system. So we haven't stretched. Think of your thoracic the way you felt. We haven't thread the needle like in yoga. Those are all okay. But we could do all of these things. We could open that thoracic rotation just simply by tensioning, connecting the tension, and breathing so far, right? Also, feel your heart rate coming out of that. We definitely can spike. We can get into those zone 2, zone 3 cardio areas that we usually associate maybe with like a medium pace jog, because it's metabolically taxing when you're tensioning all of these things. But we're just checking a lot more boxes. Could you have done that and gone for a run and been a bit more springy and connected? Absolutely. All right, let's play with the breathing just a little bit more. So again, the feet are at hip width apart or so. I want you to take both palms, make fists, and then you're going to put those fists right in the center of your rib cage in the front where it splits apart. Good. You're going to push the fists together. You're going to pull the elbows apart. You're going to get really wide, not back, not forward, just wide. Already, cognitively, you have a better idea of how to create tensions because I just made you do it and got you to do it through your whole body, right? So again, lift the skull up a bit, lift the eyes up a bit, pull the chin back just a bit. Right now, just trying to pull yourself apart, and then we're going to focus on the breathing. So what I want you to do is now everything in through the nose. Make those fists pushing and pulling. Don't let them, make them help you to fill that balloon and not in any one direction, but all of them. Get wider, get taller. Feel the response of your lats as you push those fists together and pull the elbows apart. Take a little more on that inhale. Take a little more at the top.
Am I pushing my fist into my chest?
Yep. And also together. So think like a sphere of tension, like we've done, but we're going to get there. So pushing the fists together. And at the same time you're pushing together, you're pulling apart like a magnet. Good. And riding those same lines of tension. We're just more intentional with the breathing now, right? So the breath cycles look like this. Inhaling through the nose. Taking a little more. Taking a little more. And then long exhales. Through a very tight pursed lip. Tensioning that torso, trying to maintain the space. Let's take the left hand out to the side. We're going to get a little taller. We're going to reach up just a bit. We're going to side bend a bit to the right. Yeah. You can imagine maybe holding a heavier suitcase. It's just that we haven't gone down. We've gone up and over. Now we're going to breathe in again. So wrap that right hand to the side. Make a fist. Make a fist up top too. Keep reaching those fists away from each other. And let's take those same breath cycles. Inhale slow but big through your nose. Because of the position you're in now, you're going to feel your left ribs opening more than your right. Inhale, fill it. Take a little more. Be intentional. Breathe into that left rib cage. Long pursed-lipped exhale. And of course, you're going to feel a little more in the right obliques because we're basically in an oblique crunch there. All the way out, all the way out, all the way out. And then do it one more time. Reach up a little taller, same side. This time that left hand can open, the fist can open, so it's a big palm, and you're really trying to flex that palm, the fingertips back, so that you feel maybe a little bit of nerve pulsing there on
Oh
that
yeah,
left
there's a
side.
lot more nerve when you put when you go back like that. That's a very
Oh, yeah.
nice micro
And
adjustment.
that's also a communication mechanism. It's an information mechanism. Now, inhale, fill the ribs, take more. Take a little more. Exhale, wrap that torso. It's like you're squeezing your torso longer and tighter as you exhale.
Yeah, that one a lot, like from the 2 years we worked together, wrapping my torso, like each month would mean more and more until I could almost create the wrap, right? Before there's just pieces that would be working.
Exactly. And my hope also is that these positions help facilitate that more and more and more. Whether you're just beginning and you're just saying, "Ooh, wow, I haven't felt that those rib cage on that side expand. I haven't felt those obliques like that," or whether you've done it a bunch with me and we're still reinforcing it, right? It works both ways. Now, we have the same thing other side. There's also some cognitive work going on here. When we exaggerate the inhales, we light up a part of the brainstem. The brainstem's involved with autonomics, blood pressures, and heartbeats. And, we often hear now about fight or flight and autonomics and subconscious stuff. So we're actually changing those patterns in the brainstem a bit, right? Which is really cool. It's another little benefit of this style of breathing. We're getting 3 different types of work in that brainstem. The cool thing about brains is when we light up, when we increase activity in certain areas, the adjacent areas often get increased activity as well. It's like it's this neurological connection effect, right? So just little side notes on how this can be so powerful, right? Let's go. Right hand out, make a fist, right hand out to the side, left hand down. We're going to side bend first, going up a little bit taller, climbing the ladder, and then over. I like to sometimes imagine like there's a limbo bar or something right here in that upper ribs.
Yeah, that makes a big difference going up and over versus just crunching down.
Exactly. And
It's
this
harder.
is also a bit of a motor control drill. So as we play this little Simon Says game with this little intentional stuff along the way, you're getting more and more and more information. You're learning more about your body. You'll be able to create better outputs. Now we have to breathe. Reach up a little bit taller with that right hand. Let those ribs open up. This is a shoulder mobility drill. It's a thoracic mobility drill. It's a hip mobility drill. It's a strength drill. Inhale, fill the ribs, especially on that right side. You're going to feel that more. Take a little more at the top. Exaggerate it. Another little sip in. And a long, 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 long exhale. All the way out. Keep pushing out. Pulling the torso. Think of this as your torso is pulling longer and tighter. It's actually pulling the air out. Good. Open up that right palm and press it, flexing the fingers back, pushing that up toward the ceiling, feeling maybe the median nerve as well.
Yeah, it's harder.
Noticing different side to side. This is also a very great benefit of doing all this stuff and being intentional here. Sometimes it's annoying. That's the neuroplasticity, acetylcholine, norepinephrine, and dopamine. Especially when you get a little frustrated with me. What's this guy talking about? What does he mean? Oh, wait, I forgot to make a fist. Oh, I don't know. Am I breathing into the ribs? Do I feel that? I'm not sure. That's the precursor, a necessary precursor to neuroplasticity. It's written into a human being's DNA. Good. Slowly come to a rest.
Oh, and hey, I think I should mention now that if people are watching this and you have questions, put in the comments. John and I are going to be watching and making comments on it. If you're a founder, apply to the founder fitness goals group. We're going to have a Telegram group to have kind of Q&A and everything. Um, Everything that we're doing is nuanced, and when you start to do it, there's always more levels. Like, how do you get the abs engaged? Do you have an inward or outward kind of pull to the legs? It's endless, and then there's variations of doing these things. So if you're interested in this, follow along. Come each first Friday. We're going to have a workout like this. Do it every day or as many days as you can. Put comments in there. Join the Telegram group, and let's get fit together. So
The
just want to put
most
that.
important, the most important part that I'm working through with you now is feeling all of those things and feeling for you personally how that works. How can that work for better performance? How can that work for decreased pain? How can that work for better connectivity? How can that work for better brain power? Not just whether you did a workout or not. There's so much that we can play with here in way of pain and performance, because they're outputs in your body and brain. They're just outputs, and we can keep messing with the input, right? And we don't often associate a lot of value with something like, hey, standing here and holding that position and breathing. But even just off this again, let's play. Turn the upper back and thoracic. If it's freer, if it feels freer, then absolutely I can say that your neck stiffness probably went down a bit. And I can absolutely say, if you're going to go out and play some pickleball or some tennis after this, that you're going to have a freer swing all across the board. Go ahead and do your deep squat and see if that feels different.
Oh yeah, way less torturous.
And we still haven't stretched in the classical sense yet.
In that last thoracic, I could feel my spine, and it would like click, 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 and it didn't the first two times. So each time we're kind of deepening, and I'm getting more awareness of like the mechanics, the machinery.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is such a powerful neurological process. Crawl yourself out right from there and try that push up again and match the rate of perceived exertion. So it's not whether you do a million more or do zero again. It's feel how that push up feels this time in perceived exertion, how hard, how easy, how connected. Is it all the body kind of working for the task, or is it still very particular tension points?
It felt easier and less of my body going, oh shit, that might hurt, or like my wrists going like, oh, I've got, it's not very flexible and I'm gonna hurt it again.
Yes. And this can absolutely then be correlated to strength. So oftentimes what happens is someone says, well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, something I definitely felt. Like I was working hard and I was deriving up tension and I was breathing, but still something in our brain tells us that we need to like jump around to check all those boxes. So right now, the feeling of that, like doing a push-up and that rate of perceived exertion gets a little better, like more of your body. So we can correlate that really powerfully to a workout, right?
And just
All right.
one thing to throw in there, the power of personalized coaching. So like I had another coach that was a more bodybuilding, kind of more weights, and I hurt my arm probably because I was on the computer too much. And I decided to double down on non-weight type workouts with John. And what we found was I would tell him what hurt, and then we would just have a workout that would not use it in a way that hurt, but then would also keep it moving and keep things coming, so I didn't have to stop working out just because I had an injury that prevented me from lifting weights. And so when we invite people to come on and be on with us, the goal is that they get some personalized attention, and you can see how you don't have to stop working out when you're injured, and sometimes the workout can actually help you in recovery to not just get less injured, but actually increase performance of that part as well, and not be injured there again.
And that's using those root function ideas, the connectivity and the neurology and the breathing and it's using those as a foundation to build, and we can do that really powerfully. We can do it like a weight lift, or we could say, yeah, you know, this feels funky today, that feels, and we can still go pretty hard with the tension and the decompressions and all that, and still check a box of a workout while you feel a little bit better coming out, right? So let's get you into some of the Bruce Lee type positions. If you have the intention strap, let's use it. I'm going to show you how to do a kind of a row machine all in one. That's also going to involve, you know, lots of tension in different ways. We're also going to we're going to see if we can apply that even without a strap, maybe just a towel, something that you can't rip. So first and foremost, the strap is with you, but you don't need it right away, so just keep it near you.
If you use a yoga strap, you could use a towel. We got these like kind of pretty thick canvas type straps.
Yeah, I'm actually going to show you. I'm going to show you another one as well, kind of how, because you really could use lots of different things as long as it's safe, like you're not going to rip it, something valuable. I have two things. I have the strap, and I also have my towel right here.
Awesome.
And
John, you're in Costa Rica, so if anyone's watching this and wants a live, real time, in person version of this, you're in Costa Rica by Nasara, and a lot of your clients are professional athletes, surfers, rock stars. Like,
yeah, there's
like
always
a quick minute on that.
There's always people coming in and out of here all across the board. So I've had the ability to work with such a broad demographic, from Olympic athletes getting ready for Tokyo for surfing in the last Olympics, also with some pretty serious scoliosis. So this is a really interesting demographic, a structural effect that often causes a lot of pain, and then at the same time, a very, very top 2% performance athlete, right, at the same time. So the same ideas were really powerful in that direction for them. Also some creative performers, so famous musicians. And I mean, all across the board, there's been athletes. There's also been people that are in the creative field as far as tech and business, and use this stuff to feel better, and be a bit more creative and be a bit more connected in their body and a bit more brain power. And that includes, you know, some tech startup companies, founders, and some authors. And I mean, all across the board, it's really interesting here, that experience, because everybody's coming into this tiny little bubble, and the word of mouth boosts everything. And I wind up meeting all these different people, and then they wind up really using the different ideas for themselves in their personal ways, right?
And
Really
you
cool.
work with me twice a week. You know, you didn't mention me. That's okay. And you've been flown
You were
around
in
the
there.
world.
You were in there.
You've been flown around the world for people who have come and love it, and they want high performance. They want to stay injury free. They want to recover. And yeah, you're just kind of like this awesome creature that I'm so appreciative that you would coach me and be on this.
Thank you. I wasn't going to sit and say all that.
You're humble.
I'm just this awesome coach, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you have to laugh too, right? Okay. So, and I also don't want to really give any names and be like, you know, hey, this person, that person. Okay, so let's put some of that tension. I want you to think back to those very first rounds that we did of pendiculation, of tensioning the whole body in one shot, right? And we're going to put that into a template. So I want you to lay back, get long, hands at the sides at first, touch the toes at the toe joints, the heels apart. It's going to be an internal rotation. These internal rotations at your hips provide what's called a centration. It means space with support of your fascial system at your hip joints. They're really powerful for even opening the hips.
So my heels are out and my toes are touching. I'm kind of like pushing down and out. Is that right? And like my legs are kind of turning in like that. Is that what you're saying? And
yes.
I'm pulling back?
Yes. And the template facilitates the feeling now, meaning The template always doesn't always matter. We can change the template, but for right now, it's learning those feelings by utilizing the position, by utilizing the template. So I also want you to try, it's okay if you can't, but you're going to have to try as hard as you can to spread your toes. And sometimes people go, well, I can't do that. They don't move. And I said, but you still have to try. And they said, but it doesn't move. And so you still have to try. Cognitively, you just thinking about very intentionally moving lights up the same brain areas as if you actually are moving. The same neurology happens. So try your best. And if you continue to do that, eventually you will. The feet are so important. The feet and ankles are like the tires and suspension on a sports performance, on a high performance vehicle. Okay? And they often get overlooked, and it's not so hard to work at them. So you trying to spread your toes and pull your toes back towards your nose in what's called an ankle dorsiflexion, that's it. That's all we really need. You've already done the powerful work. You just have to be intentional there. Up the chain, so there's lots of tension building already. You'll feel that further up the chain. What your feet and ankles are doing is building you further up that chain. And the crazy thing is when I have worked and do work with professional athletes, oftentimes they're already crying here. And these are people that, can do burpees till they're blue in the face and swing kettlebells and pull themselves up onto things. And they're already crying. Feel that internal rotation tension now. Feel that zip up your midsection. We're going to reach up toward the ceiling off the height of the chest, pushing the fingertips together and pulling the palms apart. Same time, same like we did in the beginning, only in the beginning we did it with making fists. Now I want you to use those fingertips. Get a little longer through the back of the neck. Inhale slow through the nose and fill your ribs. Use the ground as a response tool here. Meaning, as you inhale, feel your rib cage expand in your back. Take up more space into the ground, not less, not away from it. Exhale, pull in the torso, tight. If you notice, it's almost the same exact thing that we did when you were standing without this specific template. Keep that breathing cycle big, long, obviously not hyperventilating short, but long inhales, taking a little more and exaggerating at the top. Long exhales, tensioning the torso, long. Check in on the feet, spreading the toes, pulling the toes to the nose. Check in on the internal rotation on the adductors, check in on the backs of the thighs, the hamstrings, check in on the torso, check in on the lats, check in on the arms. Your arms should be working. Yeah, we're not doing a bicep curl, but for sure, you're feeling tension around soft elbow joint and a soft shoulder joint. Nothing's locked out. And then slowly, the same way you built tension, come to a rest. You can find this idea of pendiculation in really forward thought, but really powerful pain clinics now, say like on the West Coast of California. California seems to be on the forefront of just simply understanding some of these broader aspects and underlying ideas, like Esalen or whatever and all that stuff. So there are some pain clinics out there that are looking toward, because other things aren't working. The painkillers aren't working anymore as much, right? Some really interesting, some really interesting studies here too on isometrics. They found in a really interesting study where they isolated a joint. So they found some people with elbow pain. Maybe it was like a tendinitis, which just means inflammation at the elbow, and lateral epicondylitis, medial epicondylitis, golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, whatever, but at the elbow. And they made them hold an isometric for a long period of time. I think it was like, an isometric arm hold with a fist on that elbow that was affected. They made them hold it for like 5 minutes at a clip, which is a pretty darn long isometric, right? Maybe even a little bit more than that. And then they re-interviewed them. And what they found was a lot of the controlled study, a big percentage of the people actually experienced a decrease in pain at the target joint, at the elbow. But then what they also found was through that simple isometric, although held long, the patients actually reported lesser stiffness and pain throughout the whole body.
Mm.
And this has a lot to do, I believe, with the neurology that we're talking about. But imagine now you just did that throughout your whole body instead of just one piece, right? We can also talk blood pressure. So isometrics can be used in very powerfully to lower systolic blood pressure, which is really interesting. And we can give you an actual numbers template on that with another study done. Really cool. Up to 7 points in the study that was done that I'm referencing in systolic blood pressure lowering. It's pretty big. It doesn't always sound like it is, but it's a lot. In just practice. And again, that was only looking at singular isometrics, like a grip squeeze with an arm tension. That wasn't even looked at the full body isometric and full body pendiculation that we're doing now since the beginning of this session. So some really, really interesting applications there.
Hey, John, just in case you might have said this, but it took me a while to really get it. Could
Sure.
you define what isometrics is, compare it to like weightlifting and like the concept of time under tension and what we call intention time?
Sure. So mainly when you break down into biomechanics and physiology, there's 3 types of contractions. You could break them down further and further and further, but for now, just worry about concentric is when you take and do a bicep curl. The act of you pulling toward you is a concentric or a shortening contraction. You're shortening your bicep. If you were to hold that same weight and slowly resist that weight as you come out, that would be an eccentric or a lengthening contraction, right? Isometric would just simply be if you held that weight out there and held, right? So now you have an isometric contraction, a non-moving contraction. And what's so cool about this is we started to understand, you could see it in the NFL. They went from a lot of teams, including like Kansas City, the Chiefs. I'm not a big football fan, but it's cool to see and people enjoy it. And I like the athletic performance side of it. You could see them moving toward things like Pilates and TRX, replacing maybe one weight training day with one of these days. Maybe even like a heavier yoga, like a freestyle yoga or something. Because they're finding that the eccentric loads and isometric loads are helping create less injury because they're healthier for length of the muscles, they're healthier for joint and connective tissue health, right? But they're also making people more intentional with their bodies and understanding where their bodies are. If I'm just cranking on weights like this, oftentimes my bicep goes short. It learns only how to be short. Then I reach out to catch a ball or something like this. The bicep's not comfortable. That includes in your brain and the information. Not comfortable with that length. Pain can be produced. In some cases, hopefully not. Then you could have a structural, an actual structural effect like a tear or something like this. But it doesn't even need to be a tear. It can just be your brain going, hey, I don't really like that idea of this range of motion out there. I'm not comfortable there. Let's change something and let's create a bit of pain because all I know is this short. So there's a lot of really cool things going on with these isometrics. There actually is an oscillation happening when you're continuously trying to find that tension.
And you were telling me that about running where like in powerlifting where doing this would actually make you faster than if you would train on running and it helped you be better at powerlifting more than powerlifting.
Oh yeah. And you can run the numbers. I'm sorting through studies on that, and there's numbers assigned and volumes assigned to all of that, and in very highly controlled scientific studies. And so just as a quick kind of overview without spitting out all the numbers because it would take forever, the maximal force output and also the speed of maximal force output is always looked at in running. So it's how much force can I create maximally? And then also how quickly could I create force. So the two really big ones, they both have gone up with something as simple as an isometric ankle push held for a period of time, and generating that force. Almost exactly like what you did in the very beginning of this session, right? Generating a lot of force, holding it, keeping that contraction. Jump heights were measured, sprint times were measured. They all have a super positive response to just simple isometrics done really intentionally, right? And sometimes in different positions, but we'll get there.
Could you wrap this up by saying like what parts of this workout was strength, what was mobility, what was isometrics, and how, even though for some people it might not feel like it was that big of a workout, why it might have been, and how to maybe turn it up if someone's been doing this every day. Like how do they get more of a workout or less if they're sore 2 days from now?
Sure. So that idea of pendiculation is strength, it's mobility. When you stood up in the beginning and were tensioning your entire body and everything, that is your strength. That is your mobility. And you add the bit of breathing to that, and is also strength and mobility. You felt when you expanded your rib cage, I can directly correlate that to shoulder range of motion increase. I can directly correlate that to thoracic range of motion. I can directly correlate that to the rate of perceived exertion. That's why we tested all that stuff. So like, I did a push-up. My push-up feels a little looser, a little freer, and maybe a little easier to get done, to execute, right? Hold on.
Yep. And I just got kicked out of where we do our workout. My wife has her lifting class with her trainer.
But this is also awesome because really we can get this stuff done anytime, anywhere. We don't need anything really, right?
Yeah.
Basically, all of it is strength. All of it is a workout. This also depends on how intentional you are. It's why I'm taking the time to assess all of these things, right? If you're standing there and you're creating all that tension, but then you're actually intentional with how it feels, and wow, I just released that tension. I didn't realize that I had so much tension in my neck, and now I spread that out, and I also feel my heart rate up. But if you don't take the time to feel that stuff or understand it, then we can't assign value to it, right?
Yeah.
Just quickly, I do want to show you the dip into the overcoming isometric. I'm going to use my towel. I mean, look, the human body is strong enough. Your brain is actually set to down-regulate tension. So your brain's an inhibition model more than it is a boosting model. So meaning like your brain's actually toned more toward inhibiting things than it is, filtering things out, basically. And this is where we see some developments with psychedelics, because we're actually able to tune down that inhibition a bit and connect other brain areas that maybe weren't before, or not communicating so quickly before. If you were to be able to tension your whole body at 100% max for real, you would have the ability to break or fracture your bones, which are typically considered about 10 times stronger than steel, right?
Oh, wow.
In the overall scheme of things. But your brain is actually inhibiting a lot of those contractions. We see it in people that have been struck by lightning. That inhibition turns off. There's a max contraction through the whole body, and they often see fractures in strange places where there has not been any impact, right? And then they started to think, okay, that's not really, can't be from the impact of just the electricity of the high voltage. So they started to understand that, oh, wow, it's such a contraction of all your fascia and myofascia that you're able to break your own bones. So my whole point is, you can go really hard under your own volition in just those pendiculation and just those tensions. So when you lie down, touch your toes, internally rotate, dig the heels, pull the heels toward the hips, pull the hips toward the heels, up top with a sphere here, or maybe just with fists, and then breathing against that space and wrapping and tensioning. You can really, really derive tension there, and you can really get good at connecting those. I often call it the Bruce Lee 1-inch punch. If you've never seen that, YouTube it after you're off the session. Bruce Lee's 1-inch punch. And you'll see what I mean. You'll see what else I'm talking about as far as strength and connection. But let's do that one more time, and then let's show you the row machine. Because all you need is a towel. I mean, heck, you could use a t-shirt as long as you couldn't rip it. Or a yoga strap or anything, really. So anything that's immovable. So you're going to go underneath the feet. And here's also a very, very, very important concept is, yes, I don't have your toes touching and your knees squeezing, but I still want you to create all those same tensions. So I still want your toes trying to spread. Doesn't matter whether they're pulled back or facing forward. Find that same line of tension. I still want you digging your heels and finding that same line of tension through the back of the body. This is teaching you how to take those intentions into any task, right? Digging the heels. Still, even without squeezing your knees, pulling your hips in internal a bit and finding that tension. Up the chain, finding a little pull and squeeze into the towel or the intention strap. Breathe against that tension, just like we did since the very beginning of this class. Wrap that torso tight, and then start to pull on that strap. Now you have a row machine, just like you would find in the gym, only in the gym, they're really big and clunky, and they're super expensive.
And they're not very mobile.
And not very mobile. I often think of this, if you're in a desk chair, and, say in a desk chair, you could even just simply find all this same idea, but hinge forward and pull on the base of the chair, right? And ride this same isometric right in your workspace, right? There's lots of different ways to do it. I'm teaching you how to build that along the way, build that in along the way. So here's the prescription when it comes to these isometrics. The harder you pull, the shorter period of time. So we already have a little bit of programming here. So the harder, obviously, if you're at 100% max contraction, you're not going to be able to hold it for more than 30 seconds. It's impossible.
Also, if you're new, like my grip strength, I would start sliding, or if it's sweating a little, I start sliding, and I just thought I hated it. But like after a few weeks or months, all of a sudden I had this next level. But then I was able to pull stronger, and then it started slipping again. So I had to get more grip strength. It's been a fun evolution of.
And grip strength is a biomarker. That means grip strength is a longevity, a health biomarker, just like heart rate variability. Grip strength is also correlated to neck and shoulders. If your grip is weak, your shoulders and your neck will have to be tighter, stronger, more tension in the shoulders and neck. So lots of cool things going on as we just simply sit here and not move. Your muscles, as you create more and more tension, especially through those lats, they're actually oscillating in a tiny bit. We can correlate those strong isometrics to a higher training volume, which is really wild. Meaning, if I was to just do a row, I'm only in maximum tension or muscle tension for about a half second per row. I'm in Spanish. So imagine if I was to do a row with a heavy weight. I'm only about a half second of maximum muscle contraction per rep. And that means if I did 10 reps, my volume is only about 5 total seconds. In this, you hit that 5 total seconds and probably surpassed it in the very first round.
Yeah, this is like the time under tension, right? With a lot of research below that. And then for us, it's like intention time, right? It's like, how can you have the intention of working out every day, regardless of if you're in the gym, to not get injured?
We're always talking, even in the world of bodybuilding, of hypertrophy, of like building muscle, their volume is always a major factor. So it's like, if you don't have training volume, you don't really make change, right? Like if I do 1 push-up a day, it has some benefit, but I'm not going to build my chest and shoulders, right? With this, your training volume is way more for the amount of time, which is probably how it outperformed a lot of power lifts. Meaning, isometric holds set to the tune of the power lift actually outperformed the practice of the lift itself, right?
And this is why I thought this would be especially of value to founders who are looking for that performance hack, who, are super busy and might not be at the gym. And it's like the isometrics and tension time under tension, like these are all things that I didn't know until I met you like 2 years ago. And it's like, wait, what? And it brings things back to first principles. It's like time under tension. And you look at like how the assumed way to work out is like, pumping iron, and you're like, oh wow, that has very small time under tension. So
Well,
I
so
thought this would be really, really, people go, oh, that's interesting. That's cool.
and this is what I mean by using that root function work to check a lot of boxes that are left unchecked in a lot of other ways. So like you're also bolstering your connective tissue here. So your shoulders, the connective tissue around your shoulder joints getting healthier as you do this, right? Which
Yeah.
doesn't always happen in concentric contractions and shortening contractions. There's a lot of stuff going on. One more key point. As we even shift options and angles, is take the intention that we've built all this class and put it into these isometric or overcoming isometric pulls. Meaning, because I work a lot in back pain and chronic back pain, if you go to pull that strap and you only feel it in your back, don't just let off and go, nah, forget it, right? Like what would maybe happen with a weight. Sort through it, meaning if I start to pull, it's going to show you compensation patterns. If I pull hard and start to dial up tension, 10%, 20%, 30%, and I start to kind of arc my back and maybe I feel my low back and my low back's pretty sensitive and it's okay to feel it, but see if you can retune that tension with your intention, meaning your feet dig a little bit harder, find your hamstrings, spread your toes a little bit more, internally rotate just a little bit more. Even if you don't rotate, squeeze and find those inner thighs. Get a little bit broader through the lats, and all of a sudden, you're using this whole system instead of any one piece. This is really powerful in the brain. Because if you have chronic low back pain, just say, and I get you to stare at a weight and then try to just deadlift it, chances are you're probably going to dip right into that back pain right off the bat, right? And this can be over-threatening. Don't think even structurally. Don't think like, oh, cartilage or, disc or blah, blah, blah. Don't even think like that. Just think pure brain neurologic function, meaning your brain looks at that weight, goes, right off the bat. It's a little higher threat load and can
Yeah.
create and perceive pain, can actually create pain in the low back. Here, you get to sort through that. This is a movement patterning idea that doesn't happen when you're just jumping around. I can't always change your movement patterns if I just make you do squat hops, because it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. I had to majorly reprogram, and I'm still doing it, like to hinge with my glutes instead of bending over and picking up with my back, and it's like a new language to me. It's how you said, you kind of ease up on it and you start to do all the different micro moves and you start to see, and it's just repatterning. Yeah,
And the only
cool.
real way to do that is with intention. You can't, if I zone out, if I set a timer, I have these discrepancies, like my brain is in high threat zone, it's high threat in my back, maybe I always have this chronic low back pain. They did a study of 3,000 people over multiple years to try to find a predictor of back pain. And you know what the two biggest things that they came away with that? The two biggest predictors of low back pain had nothing to do with your movement, nothing to do with like lifting or not lifting or anything like that. The two biggest factors were smoking and job dissatisfaction.
Wow.
Two biggest factors in actually predicting back pain, which is really wild. So
That's
we're
wild.
also using this to sort of offset all of that, right? Which is really interesting. It's all side notes. I can spit that stuff all day. You know, I'm a
Yeah.
nerd. I read through all those studies and I look at all that stuff. I think there's also a side of this that we can't really study. There's this other side of it that's a bit bigger than all that stuff. And studies are only as good as the science kind of chooses to check for good reason.
Each.
The sky's the limit with this. Could you have changed that to like a bicep curl? Yeah, sure. Like, who doesn't want to get a little bit of arm work in? So I can switch from that low row to maybe pulling here. And the really cool thing with these isometrics is the length of the bicep curl. So remember what we talked about. We talked about, you know, just curling here, short, 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 and then what could possibly happen? Here, I could have a long curl, and this is much more performance-based. It's harder, you can feel that, much harder to curl, hold the weight out here than it is to pull in here tight.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we could be sorting through itises and different influences, different negative influences at the joint, like an elbow. So I could be sorting through elbow pain with the same exercise. There's also hypertrophy, meaning muscle building. So at longer lengths, at higher tensions, we can build muscle quicker. Or rather the same as weightlifting, which is really, really cool. At the same time being more athletic. I want to have strength at that length, not just at the short length, not just be able to contract here. Same thing, finding all tension through the whole rest of the body. And if you do that, it's also more effective. Using the breathing, filling the ribs, wrapping the torso. More effective. Why? You got more going for you in the equation. It's more metabolically taxing. You can feel that. Heart rate's up.
Yeah, for people that want like more strength and more tone and all that, these kind of movements, like this move just alone with the strap, like my muscles look different and more tone, more strong, just from, you know, you went away for 2 months on a vacation and I basically just did the same workout almost every day, and it was great. It was awesome.
Well, here we can really combine all those things. We're not sacrificing one thing for the other. So the deal always is like, okay, if your main goal at all costs, no matter what, is to have a very big right bicep, and I say, okay, just pull and do bicep curls all day long as much as you can, and you would for sure build that right bicep. But you're going to sacrifice other things, absolutely. So you're going to sacrifice, like I said, might be an overuse thing at the tendon. Like your body's tired of doing those bicep curls all the time in the same direction, and your brain and body go, nope, I don't want you doing that anymore, right? We can actually alleviate that idea with what we're doing now. Maybe now you can't extend your arm fully because all you've done is that one bicep curl. So you go to surf and ouch, maybe it hurts because when you try to extend your arm, it doesn't want to do it, right? So you can always kind of sacrifice one thing for the other. But with this, I really, really feel like it's so well-rounded all the way around and cognitively as well that you should be more mobile. So let's actually test that to finish. So stand up and reassess, arms up overhead. We did some heavy work. We have all the ideas. Could you have done all this in a much shorter period of time? Yes. But do I think it's important for you to understand the knowledge of why? Absolutely. It's more powerful. Your last assessments here look just like your first ones. Well, are your first ones as well, the same assessments, but we notice and check any difference. Can I do a full workout and come out of it with a bit freer mobility? It might happen in one area, it might happen in all the areas, it might happen more pronounced and profound in some areas than others.
Cool. So yeah, just reiterating again, this is something that we're going to try to do every first Friday. We're going to invite a few people to each session if they would like to receive personalized in real-time coaching. And we're going to be answering questions in the chat on like LinkedIn, maybe Facebook. And definitely we're going to have a Telegram group for at least founders. Maybe we'll expand that. Maybe we'll have multiple ones so that you can be with like-minded people who are trying to be high performant in all areas of life. And with John, it's also physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. I want to thank you so much, John. And there's so much value from all the different levels of understanding of this, of getting the foundations, getting the micro movements, having them all come together, getting to know your body. Then there's variations. Then there's like, oh, this happened to my body. And so then it's like working with that to rehabilitate, or I need to get better at this. I'm going surfing in Nosara, and I don't want to spend the whole week getting up to speed and then leave right when I'm able to do it, well. And our goal is just to kind of grow together month to month, and then in between watch the replays. You can do the same workout, and after we've done this for a few months, you can watch past ones. And so this is like first Fridays of the month. We're doing it December now to set the tone for 2025. And with that, you want to do any final wrap up, John?
Yeah, so let's just actually feel to wrap up that pendiculation the same way we came in the session. We're going to go out, but we're going to shift it cognitively a little bit. So stand with the feet at hip width apart, feet facing forward, arms at the sides. Again, you're going to start to derive up tension from the feet and all through the body. But this time, I want you to actually keep it at about 50%. When we started this session, we went 100%. I can change the parameters cognitively by keeping you at no more than 50%. So it starts at 10, 20, 30, 40. Hit that 50 mark. Take a breath in through the nose. Fill the ribs. Exhale and relax. All at once. We'll call it an active relax. The same mechanisms you can use to build tension, you can actively use to relax. We don't think of this either. We don't think of active relaxation. Let's do it one more time. Building, building, building tension, time and tension, feeling, not just contracting or squeezing in any one direction, but actually feeling everything in every piece. No more than 50%. And then relax. We had lung capacity, we had mobility, we had strength, we had intention, we had cognition, we had brain boost, we had all of these things coming together. One last one before you go, because I love teaching this stuff. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your nose. And at that exhale, not all the way out, but almost. Start to move, start to bounce. We're going to do one breath hold. This is going to feel a charge. We're going to create some what's called hormetic stress. It's a very positive stressor for change. When you do need to breathe, simply pause the movement, let go of your nose, and breathe and feel that charge. Feel the energy. Feel the oxygen. I use this, especially if you're on like meetings like I am, when you have to talk a lot and also staring at a device. So I use this to retake carbon dioxide. You can actually feel better blood-brain oxygenation or brain oxygenation, more oxygen to your brain, better fuel to the brain. And it's like a kick in the butt, maybe mid-work day, right? Really fire everything up. Nice, dude, good work.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
All right.
Do that.
And that's a wrap.